Today I'm going to actually talk to you about design thinking and what really it takes for you to figure out and learn design thinking. And I'm going to do that while making my favorite cup of black coffee. For me, coffee has to be black, mainly because you're enjoying the flavor of the coffee beans and you're not mixing it with anything else like milk or sugar, which could overpower the original taste of what coffee beans bring into the whole coffee, right? And for that reason, there are multiple ways. You can actually have different methods to cook black coffee. There are no right or wrong. And that's exactly what I believe is the art of problem solving. You don't have a right or a wrong method. Organization to organization, they have different methods to really look at problem statements and solve them and find solutions. So just like how it's for black coffee, you can make it using French press, you can make it using pour over, you can make it on hot coal and sand like how they do it in Ethiopia, or you can just make it like our beautiful filter coffee that we make in South India, but black. Today for me, it's about pour over, which I think is the technique that resonates the closest with design thinking. What is design thinking? It is a framework for problem solving. Simple. You can Google and you will find multiple technical definitions of design thinking, and with each of them being right, your takeaway should be you can solve a problem with the framework of design thinking. If you can understand it, if you can imbibe it, and if you can actually make it a part of your work life or even your lifestyle in general. The first step in any pour over coffee is to have the right equipments. Okay, so of course we have this kettle. This is a very special kettle. It actually has this beautiful shape, which I don't think there is a reason for it, but it definitely has a temperature indicator because it's important for it to be at the right temperature before we pour it over. And it has a gooseneck spout, which is what makes for the smooth flow of water and for us to be able to stir it around as we pour into the pour over coffee. I will just put this on induction and we will talk a bit more about it. Great. What does this kettle and water really indicate? With all of us individuals, we've somewhere started to form stereotypes. Unknowingly, knowingly, of course. We've been raised up with a belief system, and one of the biggest questions that we ask ourselves is, are you creative? A lot of times the answer is kind of, maybe because I'm into art. Oh yes, I'm a writer, I'm creative. I design, I'm creative. Oh no, I'm into finance and marketing and analytics. I'm not creative, I am a numbers person. I don't know what creativity is. For me, that is you putting your creative neurons to sleep. If you give it the right creative exercises, like how I've given the right kettle to this water, you can actually activate those creative neurons in your brain. Creativity is neither a left brain or a right brain activity. It's actually something that is throughout, those are muscles spread throughout your brain. You are actually born with it. So if someone's told you that they are right-brained or left-brained and therefore they are or are not creative, you should go ahead and correct them. But it's not easy to believe in being creative. It's not easy to actually find that creativity from inside of you. You have to work it out like any other muscles in your body. You're working out for good health. You have to work out your creative muscles. It's just like how I'm going to wait for this water to actually hit 100, boil at 100 degrees, not 80, not 85. Because the process of pour over is such that it has an entire wide mouth filter that if you use slightly warmer water, it's going to go colder faster. And by the time you pour it in your cup, it's bad coffee. You need to let it boil to the right exact temperature. We're at 65 right now, and only then start using it. How do you do it, right? How do you work out your creative muscles? There are actually tools and techniques. I'm not talking about your typical icebreakers. Those are just a way to really open up your senses, right? So you do a little icebreaker to get to know somebody. You have a little icebreaker to warm up to a large group of people. You have icebreakers to wake you up after lunch when you're coming back into any session. But those icebreakers are only to open up your senses. Those icebreakers are not really for your creative muscle workout. So with creative exercises, they actually put you into this zone of discomfort. And you need to be in your zone of discomfort to discover your potential. It's never going to come from where you're comfortable, which is why it needs to be very intuitive, it needs to be very childlike, it needs to have you move around, it needs you to get down and be silly. And that's not easy. I don't think water likes being boiled. It's never easy, but it's only then that we're going to get the right temperature. While I wait for it to hit its exact 100, let's just put some coffee into the filter and the canter here. This coffee beans has been especially ground for pour over coffee. It is the right coarseness because you have a different grinding percentage in coarseness. For French press, you have a different one for coffee machines, and you have a different one that we use for pour over coffee. Slightly more coarse than what you use for machines, but slightly more finer than what you would probably use if you were going to do it a hand crushed coffee and put it into your filter coffee or a different technique, right? For me, these coffee beans and making sure that they are actually ground to the right coarseness is the why of the problem that you're solving. Have you found the why to the problem? You will never know the right why. It could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less, but at the end of the day, you should know that if you think it's a little bit less, you can always go back and discover a few more questions and pour it back into your filter. That is how this whole thing works. So that is what this represents, the why of the problem that you're solving. Once you have that, and of course this filter is a great way to represent the environment that you've created for your discovery, for your coffee to brew. It needs to be comfortable, it needs to be safe, and it needs to allow you to know that you're not being judged. Anyways, so we're done with this water here, and it's boiled right correctly, if you think about it. The whole idea in the technique is to go round. You first only wet the filter paper, and you don't have to get into the details of it, but if you really care about it, and then move into actually pouring it over the coffee beans. The way to do it, it actually allows for every coffee bean that you see here, the coffee powder that you see here, to bloom, and it releases the aroma one by one. That's exactly what design thinking does. If you think about each of these coffee beans as the different questions by different individuals, the more you continue to pour over it, it's actually going to open up each of those coffee beans, the grains, and it's going to bloom them, and it's going to release its individual aroma. The taste is very different to what you have when you are making it on a French press or a coffee machine. Trust me, I have tasted and tried and experimented, and I'm telling you with confidence. Of course, you need to know when to stop, because at the end of the day, that is where the power is. When do you know that you've got enough questions and you're ideating the right way so that the solutions are right? Not necessarily right, but the solutions are enough. In a pour over coffee, typically if it starts bubble, if there are bubbles, you know that you have to stop, let it brew down, and then only you start putting some more water to it. You should watch the Italians make pour over coffee. You'll be in love with the barista and the coffee. The shape of this, as I told you earlier, is such that it's actually giving you enough space to just let the coffee come to the right temperature. In design thinking, my favorite thing is, if I had to actually talk to you about this process in a simple English and just tell you what we did, you will probably think, she took some coffee powder, put it in some hot water and strain it. You should have just done that. That's black coffee. It looks that natural and it looks that simple. That's exactly what design thinking is. It looks intuitive, it looks extremely simple, and at the end of the day, you wonder if you're ever going to get anything out of it. Which is why you have to trust the process. I trust this process. If you don't trust the process of design thinking, you will never believe in it and you will never get the results that you're looking for.